Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the new TCU unit that comes on top of the brand new Specialized Gen 3 Levo. So I'm sure you all have seen this bike. The thing's incredible. There's a ton of hype on it right now. The bike's amazing. I've been riding it for a while, and if you haven't ridden one, you have to get on it. It's unbelievable. But if you've seen the bike, on the top of it right here, there's a new TCU unit, which is essentially the computer and screen that controls the turbo part of your bike. Controls all your power level, and it's adjustable in the app, and in previous models you can fine-tune the power levels, and it's great. But with the new Gen 3, they have come up with a completely new unit. It's got a nice LCD screen on it now, and there's a bunch more features that this unit allows you to use compared to the old version. So there's a couple things I want to talk about today. The first thing is, let's fire it up and we can take a look at just a kind of a general overview of what this new TCU unit does for the bike. Okay, so if we fire it up right here, there's a nice S logo when it turns on. Okay, so it comes up and it's in trail mode. Now, the control on the handlebar here is the same as it has been in previous years. There's an F1 and F2 button that we're going to get into that a little bit later, what those buttons do. But so the control unit's basically the same. And if you look on the screen right here, right away, there's three modes. If we go down here into Eco, Trail, and Turbo. That's the same as it's been before. But one thing that I like that's super cool is there's colors for Eco, Trail, and Turbo. For each mode, there's different colors. So Eco's blue, Trail's green, and Turbo's yellow. Kind of a yellowy orange. That to me is very cool because a lot of times, I don't know about you, a lot of times I'm ripping down a trail and I see a hill climb coming and I kind of want to know like what mode I'm in, what power level. And when you're riding down on the old one, it's kind of hard to look down and see exactly what mode you're in. And this time you can look down and you just see a color. You just know, okay, Turbo's yellow or Eco's blue. So it's great. You can look down and really quickly just tell what mode you're in. That's a cool thing. Okay, so apart from the three modes, another feature that comes on this new unit here is there's a settings menu. There's a lot of things that this unit does, and there's a settings menu that you can access and change all those things. So we're going to go into each screen that comes on this bike, but before we do that, I want to show you the settings menu so you kind of have an idea of what you can control on this thing. So if you hold down the plus and minus on the controller right here, hold it down together, that's going to take you into a settings menu on here. Okay, so the first thing on here, there's units, and you can scroll up and down between it by the plus and minus on the controller here. So it starts off on units. We're going to push minus. That's going to take us down in the menu. We got the date and time, sensors, altitude, regulatory. So let's take a look at each one of these. First of all, there's units. Now how you go into that is, if we look on the controller here, there's two buttons on the top and bottom. There's an F1 on the top, and there's an F2 on the bottom. So F1 is sort of select or enter or go into this menu, and then F2 is back. It tells you right here, F1 is okay, F2 is back. So we're going to push F1 right here. We'll go into the units in the settings menu. There's two, imperial or metric. You can choose which way the whole unit's going to be configured. I'm going to go imperial for right now. So we're going to go, okay, that's F1. Jumps you back. Okay, now there's date and time. You can change that same way. And then we'll go down here. You can change altitude. That's very cool. So we're going to push F1 here. And that kind of sets your altitude. I guess it kind of calibrates it for the level you're at. Now, the altitude is a very cool thing. Later in this video, we're going to go in details about that and how to use it. So for right now, we're going to push F2 on the bottom. We're going to go back. And then regulatory, you can go in, that kind of tells you a little bit about your bike, model number, the ID number, all that. So we'll go back. Okay, so that is a general overview of the settings menu right here. So we're going to push F2 and that will take us back to get out of it. Okay, so now you have a good idea of the settings for this thing, what you can change. Let's go through this, and there's 3 different screens that come as default on this bike. So if you can cycle through them by pushing F1, so let's go through them. On the first screen right here, it tells you your power level, tells you your speedometer, how fast you're going. Very cool. It's a nice big picture right there. And then tells you the time and battery percentage. Okay, let's go into the next screen. By pushing F1, it's going to go into the next screen. At the top, there's time. It tells you your mode, and then your battery percentage again. Okay, we're going to go into F1 again. Go into a new screen. It tells you your ride time, your distance, and your altitude gain on that ride. Now, let's say you start riding, and the time changes, the distance, and the altitude gain, and now you want to reset it. Well, you hold down the minus button on the controller right here. You're going to hold that down, and you'll hear a beep, and that resets it. Remember that, because we're going to come back to that later. Okay, so those are the 3 screens that come as default on this bike. But here's a very cool thing. This is amazing. You can customize these screens and add many more in the app. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, so if you open up Mission Control on your phone, you'll see the bike is connected. This one says S-Works Levo. Now this pairs to the bike the same way the previous one did. This one, it gives you a little code. When you first open the app, there'll be a code on your screen, and it has to match the code on your phone. So that's pretty cool. And then I think you just push F1 here on the top, and that syncs them together. So that's kind of an important thing to remember. You push F1, syncs it together. Here's what we're going to do. If you go into, on your app, you go into Tune. This looks similar to the other one. You got your Eco, Trail, and Turbo. Now, if you want a video on how to fine-tune these 3 adjustments and the best modes to use, and kind of an overview of this part of Mission Control compared with your bike, I've made that video. I will put a link to it down here in the description, and you can check that video out. That's a great one. It breaks down all these things, your support, your peak power, acceleration response, tells all about that. So for now, I'm going to skip that because that's the same as the old version. So if you scroll down in the app to customize display, this is a very cool thing. Okay, first of all, there's the display brightness here. That's kind of great. It changes the brightness on the screen here. Super cool. And then, change that. Okay. So on the bike, remember right now, this thing comes out of the box. There's 3 screens. There's a main one, speedometer. There's your mode, battery percentage, and your riding time, distance, altitude gain. We've already gone over that. So what you can do here is you can add new. So let's open up Mission Control here, and we can go into plus right here. And then you can select a new layout. So essentially what this is depending on the layout you choose, that's the screen right here. And you can pick a different format. Each box has a different size. Depending on what kind of information you want. So as an example, I'm going to make a new screen here that just tells everything about altitude. So for this one, I'm going to use this screen on the bottom left here. There's a 1, 2, and 3. They're all about the same size. It's a good standard kind of example. Okay, so you select that. That says screen 2. Now you can tap it, and then in here, you can edit it. So the top block says clock. So you can touch that, and then it says select metric here. There's a ton of different, bits of information that you can put in that block. So like I said, we're going to do this one altitude. This whole thing, box 1, 2, and 3 is all going to be about altitude. So the first thing I'm going to select, for the first box, I'm going to select altitude. That's the current altitude that we're at right now. So you can see it changed here. Now we're going to go into number 2. That one, so there's 2 more options here. There's altitude gain and altitude descent. I'm going to do that one as altitude gain. Okay, last one, we're going to go down here, touch it, and I'm going to do that as altitude descent. Okay. So now, if you look here on the bike, it's already changed in real time while I'm doing it. The top is altitude, we're 1,024 feet, and altitude gain and descent are below it. So we haven't ridden anything right now, so it says 0. But if you were to go out and ride this bike, it's going to tell you how much you've climbed and how much you've descended. And then, again, as a reminder, when you want to change that, you just hold down the minus button here on the controller, hold it down, hear the beep, it will reset. And you can do that whenever you want to reset it. Okay, so this is a great screen that we just added here. It's all about altitude. So one thing you can do is you can rename it. You can change the name of that one, and I'll call it altitude. Okay, done. So go back. Now I got one that says altitude. Let's do another one. Okay, I'm going to select a new layout, and this time I'm going to do, I kind of like the clock. That's a great thing. I've always kind of wondering what time it is and pulling out my phone, and no, you don't have to do that anymore. This thing's got a clock on it. So I'm going to use this layout in the bottom right, where there's a small block on top and 2 bigger ones. I'm going to put the clock on the top. Okay, screen 2, we touch that altitude. Okay, at the top of it, there's a small block, so we're going to touch that. And then I'm going to change that to clock. It was altitude, and change it to clock. But that is clock. And then the top big screen, we're going to do this one that's going to be all about power. So if we go down here, this is a power part. So we're going to do, there's a lot of things. You can do your rider power, you can do your motor power, total power of the bike, average total power, power ratio. It's insane. Really, you should take all these things and add them and fine tune it and play with them and just see what you can get out of it. Because there's a lot of information. But as an example, I'm going to choose a couple. I want to see the difference between the rider power and the motor power. So for that second block, I'm going to put rider power. Great. And then the block underneath it, I'm going to make that motor power. Same thing, we're going to go down here to motor power. Okay. And then we're going to rename it, and I'm going to say power. Great. Okay, so that's 2 examples. We got altitude and power. So now if you go back into the TCU here and the controls on the bar, you can push the F1 thing, and it's going to get you over to exactly what we just made. There's a clock on the top, and then rider power, motor power. So now we have those 2 screens. So you can keep going with this, and you can add in kind of like whatever you want. You know, you could go into the original one that it gives you, change that, and you could do a clock at the top, and then do this one. You know, say you want to do your speed. We get that speedometer. That's kind of a screen that the original one has. So that's great. Now we go through the menu here. We got that, clock, speed, altitude, and power. So this is very powerful. You can add a lot of info to this thing, totally customize it the way you want. It works very good. If you customize it and you're like, I like it better how it was stock, because the stock layout is very good, come down here into mission control and you can reset default screens. Okay, reset the default. Now if we go back here, it's exactly how it came out of the box. I've been resetting it to default a lot lately because I'm coming up with new experiments on different layouts, and then you're like, it doesn't tell me what I want, so you go back to default. Very cool. And again, I love the clock. The clock is my favorite part of this thing. I love that. I'm going to put that on every display. Okay, so that is sort of an overview as to the features that Mission Control and this TCU have. Very powerful, a lot of info, super cool thing. I encourage you to go in and customize those displays and look at it. There's a lot more info when you customize these displays than you're getting when you pull it out of the box and look at the menus. You know, there's only 3 different screens. So if you hook up a heart rate monitor, or, you know, there's all kinds of things you can do this, and all those are in this custom display thing. So that's something that, you know, when you get this bike, you wouldn't really know about until you look at that, and very cool. So, turn this off. So, highly recommend that. Play around with it, get comfortable with it, and have fun. So I hope this video helps, and let's see. So I hope this video helps. This bike's amazing. The screen tops it off. It's incredible. Go play with it. Have fun. I'll see you guys on the next video.